Well, thank you for joining today. Really excited to be here at reInvent with you today and talk a little bit about what DXC and AWS have been up to, and really excited to bring up one of our premier clients here in a few moments and talk about digital transformation. So I thought we'd start out just with an exam question. This is one that is perplexing. I've had about somewhere in the range of 30 client meetings over the last 4 days, and this topic has come up in the predominance of those meetings. And it's really a fascinating question as I talk to different clients about what digital transformation is for them. So let's just start out and unpack that a bit and put the question out there. So I have a mic runner right here. So for you, for the companies that you represent, what does digital transformation mean to you?
Somebody's got an opinion. An opinion. You got one right in front of you, I think.
Oh, you're going to ask me? Great. Do you see digital transformation being defined by the market or by customers or by the vendors? Because I think that's the biggest challenge that I see.
What do you think digital transformation is? Just how would you define it, is the question.
So from our company's point of view, or from our point of view, it's about changing the way that you engage with your customers as opposed to engaging with technology. So it's about changing the business model.
Customer engagement. Any others? S'il vous plaît. Any ideas?
Fantastic.
Oh, there you go. Oh, we have a winner. We do recognize it's 4 o'clock on Thursday.
Absolutely.
I think for us it's about enablement and preparation for the future. So being able to just make sure that we're enabled to move faster and faster in the future.
That's great. Anyone else?
You want me to give my 2 cents?
Yeah, hi. I work for a mining company. For us, it's really about digitizing our processes and improving productivity through things like algorithms and that sort of thing, so we can better automate our supply chains.
That's great. Anyone else? Right here.
For us, it was basically being able to meet the market conditions quickly, ever-changing market conditions, and going to places where the customers are actually going, and completely transforming our legacy in terms of how we communicate with customers. Being insurance, we typically start, there was a lot of paper trail and cutting all that processes as well.
A lot of diverse points of view. Anyone else? Fantastic. Well, certainly we have a point of view, and what's interesting is as we've conducted these 30 some odd interactions with our clients over the last 4 days, not that different from this room. There's a lot of differing points of view, and I guess it depends on definitely the market that you're addressing, but our point of view. Look, I'm actually going to, in true engineering style or engineering culture, I'm going to reverse engineer this slide a bit. And what's interesting is this concept of digital winners, right? And we see digital winners as those that are exploiting digital and unlocking significant business value. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. In fact, the client that we're going to invite up, Jean-Pierre Alquier, he is the head of Move to Cloud for Airbus, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Airbus has done in pursuit of digital transformation with DXC and how we've leveraged AWS in the pursuit of that. So Bill, when when we begin to unpack with a client their digital transformation, and we talk about harnessing digital transformation, what does that mean?
So I think for a lot of our clients, years ago, our dialogues were about helping them cut costs, helping them be more efficient, do something else. And now when we really start talking about digital transformation, and a number of you mentioned getting closer to the customer proximity, speeding up some of the processes. In many ways, the digital transformation is about helping our clients drive their top line revenues higher and higher, and not necessarily focusing on, a small cost takeout or something else. So it's really trying to partner with the business as they go after the customers to drive their top line up.
Yeah, we definitely see a diverse set of points of view, and what's interesting is in the spirit of beginning with the end in mind. The clients that DXC and AWS are helping through this digital transformation journey often begin with the why. Like, why digital and digital transformation are interesting terms unto themselves, but the question really becomes why. And I heard a lot of these points throughout the question and some of the responses, which is, why do you pursue digital transformation? And so, look, if you consider one of AWS's core leadership principles, which is client obsession, we're seeing when our clients begin to unpack why, a predominant answer is understanding their customers, their consumers better. And so with thinking about the end in mind, and those set of outcomes really drive these other sets of outcomes, which I think as I was trying to pick up all of these different outcomes, which are entering into new markets. Many of the clients that we've interacted with this week, for instance, have raised the topics around, hey, there are markets that we want to begin to divest out of. There are new markets that we need to be able to enter into quickly. So that's both about deprecating revenue streams and about opening up new revenue streams. Bill, what are some other outcomes that our clients are thinking about relative to the outcomes they're trying to drive?
Some of them are also in the aspect of merging with other companies, bringing in new companies into the business. They're also dealing with a rapidly changing compliance marketplace. One of the things that we're also doing, that we do specifically at DXC, is we have a variety of very industry-specific solutions in life sciences and in insurance and in travel and transport and a variety of other financial services things. So many of our customers are looking at how can they take advantage of SaaS and of prepackaged sort of industry solutions to accelerate their business, drive solutions faster.
So there are three things. From our point of view, there are three things that really enable digital transformation. Number one is clearly the technologies and investments, certainly of our partners. And we're thrilled to be premier partners with AWS, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a few moments, and what we're doing with AWS in order to leverage AWS as a platform and set of enabling technologies. But does anyone have any idea last year what Amazon invested as a whole, just rough order of magnitude, in R&D?
The closest person will get a lovely container of water.
$24 billion. Most of the trade rags say about $24 billion. And so here's what's fascinating. So for a partner like DXC, to be able to harness that investment and the services, the features, the functions that are part of the Amazon ecosystem, the AWS platform, and bring that as a reality into a digital transformation dialogue once you have assessed really the destination, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Really, these digital technologies and harnessing that investment is a key and critical component on this digital transformation path or journey. And many of these services, you know well, and I realize that you can't read these, but these are things that we're bringing into this digital transformation journey with our client, which are things like Sumerian for AR and VR, Poly and Lex, and services that really begin to drive the value for our clients, and we're going to talk some about that here momentarily. The second thing is, so digital technologies as a platform enabler, leveraging and harnessing those investments, and then the second thing is you must have digital capabilities in order to transform. And so, Bill, what do you see as far as the capabilities required to really drive those transformations?
Well, I think the first one is nobody lays off anybody with AWS skills because they are unbelievably hard to find, right? So one of the first things, as John said, is you have to have talent, and you have to have talent that's had experience with doing these types of transformations. So what we've done where we are is we've leveraged two sets of things. One, we have a significant workforce that is very Amazon literate, but we've also built we have digital transformation centers, places where we've combined people who have deep AWS expertise with subject matter experts to then work with a company that comes to that digital transformation center. So we'll work with them together, with our people, with our subject matter experts people, and with them to both do a cultural shift within that company, and also sort of a knowledge transfer to help get them faster on the digital journey. And we often do that in partnership with AWS. We work closely with AWS and a lot of our largest customers.
It's interesting. We began transforming ourselves. I'll say ourselves for sure, and I'll say our relationship, our partnership, our capabilities with Amazon and with AWS about 12 to 18 months ago. And as part of that, we sought out how do we actually solve the number one issue and challenge in the industry. And that is raising up these digital transformation capabilities, right? And it all starts with having people with the right skills in the right places and available at the right time in order to service or leverage in pursuit of these digital transformations. So DXC made a series of investments, in fact, with Amazon to build out our capabilities in what we call digital transformation centers. And as Bill said, it's about showing up with those skills in order to drive those digital transformations. And so the third thing then that is needed is really a frame. Okay, and again, I'll go back to this core AWS or Amazon leadership principle, which is client obsession. Consumers are in control. Now, some of my team that's in the room will probably get a chuckle because these are probably actually my least exciting socks that I have in my suitcase this week. But a couple of years ago, I did a keynote, and I leveraged the idea or the principle of the sock industry and consumerization of the sock industry relative to that market. Now, what you may not know is that in the last 5 years, the compound annual growth rate of the sock industry has grown about 5x, was the last time I looked. And you go, the sock industry, how is that even possible? And the reason that it's possible is because of these goofy things right here, right? At some point, 6 years ago, maybe, someone had the brilliant idea to make a shift in the market from white, black, gray, brown to multicolor,
I'm clearly out of step with fashion.
spotted. And so here's the point. Part of this framework begins with, so you have a set of digital enabling technologies, which AWS and DXC have leaned in together significantly. And so we're leveraging those technologies as a digital enabler. We have built digital enabling capabilities, and now we must have a frame. The center of that frame is that realizing that the consumers are in control. So when we bring our clients into our digital transformation centers and begin to pick apart really the uber complicated question, what is digital? Well, reality is, and you all know this, it's slightly different for each customer depending on what the destination you have in mind is. I'll give you an example, and Chris Niederman, who's my partner at AWS, he runs global partners. Chris and I spoke together at our global client advisory board in London a few weeks ago, and he talked about AWS's engagement with John Deere, and we began to unpick this complicated or complex question for John Deere, and the conversation started out, what do you want to be? Like, what is your corporate mission? Like, in pursuit of digital transformation, what do you want to be? And the conversation starts out usually, well, we want to sell tractors, right? That's how the conversation
For those people in the audience, possibly from overseas, John Deere is one of the largest mechanical farming equipment manufacturers in the United States, if not the largest.
That's right. And so in pursuit of digital transformation, then when you begin picking apart that question, they realized that really they were in pursuit of, we want to solve world hunger. Now, that will result in selling a lot of tractors, but then we began to look at business processes and their applications, and in the pursuit of that outcome, the markets that they were either in or not, and really begin to leverage these capabilities, the digital enabling technologies, the investments that AWS and Amazon have made, the capabilities that are available in the market, and then certainly a frame for how you really bring all that together, build a blueprint, if you will. So what I'd like to do now is bring one of DXC and AWS's premier clients up, and just by way of introduction, just introduce Mr. Jean-Pierre this way.
Some stand back and observe, but there are many who lean forward. They have vision. They connect us, strengthening society. They innovate, achieve, and create. They are us. We are bound by common values. We are Airbus. Ambition drives every one of us to create aerospace solutions that leave our competitors behind. Our purpose is creating a better connected, safer, and more prosperous world for all humanity. We are global. We are diverse. But we share one goal: to turn mankind's dreams into realities. We are Airbus. We make it fly.
Fantastic. So Jean-Pierre, how about why don't you introduce yourself?
First, good afternoon to everybody. A simple question: how many people flew with an Airbus to come to reInvent? Yeah. Just to tell you that if you are stepping back and you are reading some newspaper, you will see that Airbus, as you probably know, compete with Boeing for a certain number of years, which is Boeing being the giant on the planet for that. But afterwards, Airbus has the values as you got within the video. And let me just give you a whole image of Airbus. We are the European leaders in defense and space in this division. We are providing helicopters for civil and military forces. And we are really competing with Boeing for the aircraft, commercial, clearly. And this with a workforce of 130,000 employees worldwide. You understood with this movie that we are a global company. Even though the historical reason gave some foundation in Europe, we are worldwide. Some numbers now, we achieved a revenue of 65 billion last year with an EBIT of 4.2 billion. And we have an order book around 1,000, the value 1,000 billion. This is giving you a spectrum of Airbus. And inside there is a key division, which is civil aircraft, where I'm belonging to. Today, we have in our order book more than 7,000 aircraft to be delivered in the coming years. We have a fantastic product covering the 100 seats to the 600 seats with a bestseller, which is an A320, that you know probably under the name Single Aisle, where we have some track records. And in this company, I'm part of the IM department, in charge of the information system for the A320, and in particular with the target to move to the cloud, and will come later on, some part of our information system.
So thanks for that introduction to Airbus. So Jean-Pierre, if you think about the problem statement, so if you think about your design to production process, right? When we began this conversation, just talk a little bit about the problem statement that we began a pursuit of trying to solve for.
Let me come back first to the question that you raised to the attendees at the beginning when we were talking about digital transformation. To me, all the answers are valid. First, to engage with customers, that's clear, but also to prepare the future and to survive in the world. As all the companies, we have customers, but we need also to achieve some target. And the problem statement that we have clearly is first, and we engaged 2 years ago, and Tom Enders, our CEO, decided to engage in digital transformation for Airbus, clearly. And the first angle of attack was to grow in the market of services with Skywise. Probably you attending some session beginning of this week in reInvent, which will provide key services for our airlines, for the fleet which is in operations. This platform, Skywise, is supported by Amazon, clearly, and providing the key features to leverage the digital. The second point, which was addressed by our CEO, was to say, we have 7,000 aircraft to be delivered in the coming years. And just to share with you an information, probably you read it, in the next 2 decades, we have more or less 30,000 aircraft to be delivered, Boeing, Airbus, and so on. Means that we are in a strong competition, and the decision to engage in digital transformation was to say, or we move, or we die. Means that digital transformation is also to prepare the future. Afterwards, having a look on our IT, our information system, we need to share also that we have an information system which is 40 years old, with all technology, from mainframe to the open source that you can get today. But this system must sustain the ramp up that we plan to do, knowing that the production rate for Airbus commercial will increase by 50%. We can't imagine to increase our workforce and our means by 50%. And this is a place for the digital means to leverage the capabilities and to achieve this target. Means that we have a legacy system, clearly, with 4,000 applications, 2,500 applications, interfaces, sorry, and we need to deal with and to see how to move from this legacy system to a more modern with digital and DXC, supporting us in the day-to-day basis for operations as a partner for AWS. With Amazon, we are moving into this direction, for some example, but we'll address now. Because when you build an aircraft, you need to design it before. You need to implement some modification to have a model, to be manufactured, and afterwards to be delivered. And we need to share it together. But when Airbus, Boeing, other aircraft manufacturers deliver an aircraft, the definition dossier with this design is a reference for the airworthiness. Means that if this dossier is not up to date, you can't deliver the aircraft. This is the importance of the topic.
So Jean-Pierre, let's talk just a minute about the market pressures. So are the airlines easy customers?
I would say that as all the customers that am I, it's never easy to deal with a customer. Never.
Are they paying more for airplanes?
What the customer is asking today, clearly, deliver on time in quality. Clearly. And I think that we are also individual customer. When we expect to be delivered for an order that you place, you expect it on time with the expected quality. Clearly. And when you intend to increase the pressure to deliver more and more aircraft, you have the risk to deviate in terms of delivery target, to deviate in terms of quality, and this is not acceptable for our customers. What we can share.
So when we begin to unpack this set of challenges a while back and began to consider the digital enabling technologies and the capabilities that DXC and AWS brought to the table, and began to identify a patch in the business process and the applications that we could go transform to drive a set of outcomes for Airbus. Let's just talk a little bit about that. So what specifically did we go address?
But what Amazon is providing as a key reference platform as a cloud was retained by Airbus by end of 2017. And we have one cloud provider today, which is Amazon, clearly, which is dominant on the market. And clearly, with DXC supporting us in operation today, specifically on the computation of the design, clearly there is a challenge for us to increase the performance. When we are talking about what we are looking as business value, clearly the two key business value that we are looking for are the time to market and the scalability. Of course, we can talk about the cost, and we'll go in depth in this example. Afterwards, we should consider that the cost reduction probably should be a positive consequence. In our landscape, the key point now is to deliver on time with the expected quality for each step of the process, design, manufacturing, and the customer services. And in the example that we are working on with DXC and Amazon, clearly, we are talking about 1,000 workers computing every day the so-called digital mockup to reconciliate the job of all engineers worldwide for a given aircraft to make sure that at the end, the design dossier will be up to date and on time. 1,000 workers on prime. When you move it to Amazon, the first work done with the joint team, Airbus, AWS, and DXC, has demonstrated a gain of 30% of performance. 30%, we don't talk about 5%, 30% we can reach. Imagine 5,000 engineers working every day, modifying the mockup. And you apply the 30% efficiency for them, which is a key benefit, clearly. And this use case clearly also allows us to have a reliability in the process, because which is a key pain also for our designers, is to have the mockup not up to date 1 or 2 days after I put the time on site. That means that if the mockup is not up to date because some servers fail, sometimes happen, we impact the business directly. Really, we are talking about business value, and the joint job that we are doing, clearly, has already demonstrated that we have value that we are looking for, that we should reach in the coming days.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
So this particular use case is a fantastic example of identifying a real significant business challenge. In this case, the challenge was essentially the entire supply chain, right? Design to production. We identified this patch or put 4 corners around the applications. In this case, as you can see, it was this DMU computation, CAD worker use case, CAD to CATIA conversions, and these schematics. I don't know exactly how many, but I hear potentially hundreds of millions of schematics that have to be converted in order to drive efficiency from design to all the way to production of these aircraft. So and the results. What's interesting about the results is, given that your business process or the cycle of the production is 7 to 10 years, it may actually be a while before you fully understand or recognize the full value of this digital transformation to AWS.
It's yes, digital transformation is a journey, and we can share all together. It's a journey. Of course, you can imagine that at a certain level of the company, for some others also, there are strong expectations in the short term. Our duty is also to demonstrate that digital transformation is there to give value to the business in a short-term approach, but they also need to share that it's not because some short-term results are present, the journey is over. Really, the journey, and first and foremost, clearly, the priority for the digital transformation is to demonstrate concrete cases towards the customers, towards our blue collars, white collars, that the digital transformation has a value added every day. I'm convinced. That's why don't try to convince me. I know that you are convinced, but we need to convince the people that digital transformation is there, not as a constraint, but a chance to move forward and to survive in the future.
It's very exciting. So glad you're one of our premier customers, and so glad to be part of your digital transformation journey. So maybe I'll just share then a little bit about DXC and AWS, and I call it our tie-up, if you will. Likely you heard maybe in the last 6 months about DXC and AWS. We announced what we call the multi-billion-dollar integrated practice. Essentially, that represents a significant commitment, DXC to AWS and AWS to DXC. It's been an interesting journey in pursuit of digital transformation for our mutual clients. DXC, for those of you who don't know about DXC, DXC is essentially the coming together of 2 legacy ITO and apps companies, CSC and the HPE Enterprise Services business. We launched DXC
April 3rd, 2017.
April 3rd, 2017. And so many ITO and apps clients represented in that business. And we made a key strategic decision that we needed to really harness AWS in pursuit of digital transformation for our clients. And so on August 7th this year, we launched a new refreshed relationship with AWS and in pursuit of those digital transformations. it's essentially both companies really leaning into each other and making significant investments, both financial and otherwise, into each other. One of the things that we've agreed to do is to be together in the field, and that sounds kind of corny, but it's actually really interesting. What it really means is we've integrated our supply chains. And so what does that mean? So what that means is all the way from strategic account planning, and in this case, we are interlocked at Airbus from account management all the way through supply chain. So professional services executing together, both DXC and AWS. It is apps development together. It is essentially ensuring that we're able to deliver on the set of outcomes that Jean-Pierre needs and that Airbus is driving by integrating our supply chains. And the other thing that I briefly mentioned is joint investment. We've made a significant investment in one another. And then we decided probably 10 months ago to essentially build a new business together and jointly steer that business. We call it the DXC AWS integrated practice, of which we're doing product development together, go-to-market together, and also delivering and executing together. Mm-hmm. So all of that then culminates in the collective DXC and AWS bringing those digital enabling technologies from AWS, harnessing the investments of Amazon and AWS, bringing the capabilities really of both companies, integrating the supply chain and bringing those capabilities, harnessing the DXC digital transformation centers, and then bringing that framework that we've invested significantly in order to build digital transformation blueprints for our customers like we've done with Jean-Pierre in order to deliver a set of outcomes in pursuit of digital transformation. So I think what I'd like to do now is maybe take some questions.
I would just add two other things to what John said about our AWS DXC kind of integrated practice. Excuse me. The first one is, both DXC is made up of, as John said, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, which grew out of EDS, and CSC. And both of them had AWS expertise. So we used the merger of the two along with our developing relationship and greatly advanced and enhanced relationship with AWS to serve as a catalyst to change how we interacted with a lot of our own customers. Because many of the DXC customers are very old, very large, established enterprises that, I don't want to say struggled to figure out how better to work with Amazon, but in many ways we serve to help connect them better with Amazon on their cloud journey. So as a result of both the coming together of two very large global systems integrators, using that to accelerate our connection with Amazon, it allows many of the large companies in the world to more rapidly move to Amazon. It may sound odd, but it's actually been a really exciting outcome. So I just wanted to make those 2 points of our coming together and helping with Amazon. I think there was a question back there. Gentlemen, no? Okay. Oh, there's one over there.
Hi, just a question for Jean-Pierre. I mean, any additional application could you maybe eligible to the cloud?
It's a good question. At the beginning of our journey in the move to cloud, not talking about the migration, we ran an exercise during 6 months to build a migration factory and to detect what kind of application could be migrated to the cloud on the lift and shift mode. After 6 months, because we started with the ambition to have a massive integration. After 6 months, we stopped. Not because Amazon was not efficient. Amazon was at the rendezvous with our platform that we built. DXC is supporting us also for some part. But afterwards, we understood that doing a simple lift and shift mode required minimum to have a replatforming. And the effort produced to do this replatforming didn't produce the business value that we expected. That's why continuing to push to the cloud first for the native cloud, clearly with Amazon. For the migration now, we engage to have an approach case-by-case basis, looking for the maximum business value moving to the cloud, knowing that moving to the cloud with Amazon, clearly we have key capabilities in the cloud, which will provide scalability, which will provide time to market, we know. And cloud workers is one example. We just discussed with DXC to have some proof of capability for SAP platform. We have also some other partners engaging their own technical teams to prove that some key feature could be migrated to the cloud, but always with the objective to have a clear business value. When I'm talking about business value, this is embed also business case, clearly, but business value is more large than business case. It's a good question. It's a good question. Thank you to raise it. I guess this is shared by all of the people in the attendance. To make it clear, we need to stay humble. The digital transformation, as I told you, is a journey. The cultural change is not yet achieved, starting with our teams first. And afterwards, we are moving. We are moving in the right direction. We built a training program with Amazon this year, where we have people engaged to achieve this training, to get the competencies, to get the knowledge. However, we need also to leverage this to our own business, because when you are doing it in the IT department is the foundation, but afterwards you need to propagate also the key advantage to move to digital, which is not that obvious for our business. Normal, their targets are to deliver design, to deliver aircraft. They are not, let me say, sensitive to the cloud. But clearly, why? Because the cloud is not the target for us. Our target is to deliver aircraft. However, clearly the cloud is a key pillar to move in the digital transformation, clearly. Means that to have a normal answer, let me say like that, is yes and no in the same time, but we are in the journey. The cultural change is a pillar also of the digital transformation, because having the technical capabilities is one thing, but putting in front afterwards these capabilities to the business, to our teams to say it's fantastic opportunities is part of the change that you are talking about. And we are progressing. It's a long journey, but we are progressing on a wide manner.
I think, this is my, sixth or seventh reInvent. I think 5 years ago, we sat in these rooms and we talked about things that we could do with cloud native computing and, applications we were building and others. But if I reflect from that to what we do with our customers today at DXC and what we really started to do, some number of years before CSC and HP brought it together, there's really three big pieces that happen in a large digital transformation. One is technology. A second one is kind of the corporate culture aspect. As Jean-Pierre said, it's not just about IT. It's the chief marketing officer needs to change how she thinks about things or he thinks about things, right? So there's a corporate change that needs to happen. And then there's a third piece, which is how the corporation engages with their customer, how they think about their customer, how the customer actually thinks about the corporation. And there's a give and take back between. And I think 5 years ago when we all sat here and we all started digital transformations, or at that point, we had a different name for it. We all focused on the first part, the IT part. And what I think the most successful companies that have moved to the cloud and or are on this journey at a various degree of position on it, they've focused on all three. And in speaking with Jean-Pierre beforehand, Airbus was very cognizant at the beginning that it wasn't just about the technology, it was about the enterprise, the changes that you needed to make above and beyond IT. And those tend to be the successful transformations.
I'll add, when we talked a little bit about the digital enabling capabilities in the framework, one of the things that we consider in the framework is what we kind of call two planes, if you will, of stakeholders. You could probably say there's 3 or 4, but just to simplify it, we see two planes of stakeholders. One we call digital stewards. The digital stewards are those who are effectively driving the corporation, okay, the company. The future direction of the company, the markets that you either want to enter or deprecate yourselves out of, the speed at which you want to move into those markets, or the speed at which you need to move in to be able to capitalize on that market. And then those are typically the line of business owners, et cetera. Then the second plane of stewards are the technology, regulatory, and compliance stewards, okay? Now, which one of those do you think typically make the technology decisions? It's the second plane of stewards, right? Is that to me or not? It's the second plane of stewards. Now, what's interesting is when we bring that third capability, which is really our digital enabling framework, it's been a fascinating journey because your question hit on a really critical part of the journey. I guess it was me. A really critical part of the journey, which is when we bring those two sets of stewards into the room, it's often the first time that they start communicating clearly. And what you find is you look at a process like the design to production process of aircraft, you bring in the digital stewards, and then you bring in the technology, regulatory, and compliance stewards, and actually start enabling those. You begin to see the little spark happen, right? And the technology stewards, by the way, and when you bring in then the digital enabling technologies from AWS, you bring in the capabilities, the people with the skills that actually know Sumerian, AR/VR, and the things that we can bring to bear to solve the digital stewards' problems. That's when you actually begin to produce value. So you begin to bust through those organizational and change management barriers when you start to see those two planes of stewards come together. So great question.
There was another one I thought over here somewhere. Maybe I was wrong.
Any other questions? Fantastic. Well, hey, listen, I really want to thank you for coming today, and really hope it was helpful. Understand that even in your own corporation, many of your lines of businesses and your digital stewards and your technology stewards are even on different points of inflection on that journey themselves. And so really hope it was helpful, and thank you. And Jean-Pierre, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks all.